So now I'm very happy to announce Pascale Bruderer. Why was I lucky to get her here? Because we used to be together in the jury of the Swiss Family Business Award, and we realized we share a lot in terms of philosophy, and we share also the passion for the ecosystem of Baden. And she grew up here. And then many of you, I think there are few people in Switzerland who don't know her. And she is one of the few most popular politicians who decided, okay, now I want to do something else. And she became member of all the prestigious boards. But what is really impressive, also her company, Stablecoin, which we will probably hear something about it. And in addition, she is also vice president of ETH Council, which is a great honor for us to have her here. Yesterday we were at ETH Zurich, and this is sort of the highlight of this event. Thanks a lot, Pascale, for joining us.
Yes, good morning, everybody. It's an honor for me to be here. Well, yeah, here in Baden, where I come from, but especially as well to be here at this forum, because I think you're really spot on with the issues we are discussing right now, yesterday already and today as well. And I hope with my contribution I can build on a little bit on what you've already heard and reflected on. I will try to do this from my perspectives, and you've just heard it's like 3 different kind of perspectives. It's the political perspective after a good 20 years in politics, now more than 5 years as an entrepreneur and in different boards. So I will look at it as well from the business side or the entrepreneurial side, and as a current vice president, you heard it, of the ETH board, which is actually the board over the 2 schools, the ETH Zurich, EPF Lausanne, but as well the research institutions, PSI, EMPA, EAWAG, WSL. So, of course, those issues, sovereignty, resilience, especially in the infrastructures is absolutely key from all of the 3 perspectives. And I will start with the political perspective. And there is a huge shift. It's like 6 years that I've been in parliament, that I left parliament, and it's like a different world, what happened in the last 6 years. And maybe, I'm not sure you see my question here. Is it as important as never before to talk about sovereignty and resilience, or is it just as important as ever, but we look at it from a different perspective? We give it a name. I'm not really sure, but I think even these questions show how much the shift is evolving right now. So in the recent years, the meaning of security, of resilience and sovereignty has changed. And the change is driven by many factors: immense geopolitical tensions, of course, less respect, and this is important, less respect for rule-based international cooperation, which is important for everything, sustainability as well, and so on, and was always key to our way to look at international relations. If I say our way, the Swiss way, but as well growing doubts about liberal values, such as free trade, such as openness, and Switzerland as a small, open, strong, neutral country is directly affected, of course. Now, starting with the political perspective, please understand where I come from. And I can talk probably for a bit of my generation in general. I was 12 years old when the Berlin Wall fell. The Cold War ended. Many believed, and so did I, that large wars in Europe were no longer likely. The security focus shifted away from territorial defense, and the European Union deepened integration. There was a strong concept growing of peace. And yes, there it started. The word I mentioned before already, the rule-based cooperation gained importance, and risks were seen as manageable through institutions. And liberal democracy and free trade were spot on. These were the reasons for me personally and this is why I mention it, to engage in politics. This was like the ecosystem I understood, and I wanted to be engaged on. Well, then, of course, the big shift happened, and now resilience becomes a policy terms. Before, resilience was, you are maybe more expert than I, more on the individual side as well, but then resilience became a policy term, economic resilience, energy resilience, societal resilience, because of globalization. Regarding the strong economic integration with global markets for Switzerland as well, it was important to have this resilience. But we had all high confidence in this international network, in the stability of this network, and security policy focused more on that cooperation issues. Now in the crisis decade, which we are just in, resilience and sovereignty is right in the very center. So after the pandemic and after we realized that war returns to Europe and energy security and supply chains become critical issues, this really shifts as well the way the political debate is going on. And what is really new and a pure game changer, and for me, having stepped out politics and realizing that really hurt me a lot, there is an attack on the institutions. Out of the institutions, can you imagine? It's not an attack from outside to the institution, but within the institutions, you see those attacks. Values, question mark, rule-based cooperation, question marks. I mean, it has even become difficult to remember exactly what we meant by those words. And this is really new. Well, Switzerland is making right now a clear reassessment on the security environment, but not only that, but in a broader context. And there is a debate, of course. It always has been a debate about neutrality. Now it is a new debate about neutrality under pressure. And we should have this debate. I mean, this is part of our political culture, that we are able, and we have the routine as well, looking at the history, to have debates like this. But who's surprised, looking back, that yes, it is new for us, and we have some catching up to do, not only in terms of safety, but also in terms of the whole concept of security itself. And not only that, but also in terms of our ability to discuss this issue, not in a, ideological way, but rather with a view to the challenges which we see, which we face. And not only that, because just discussing it won't be enough. We also need to decide, we also need to implement, and we need to integrate into, a whole concept. And this is why I will come just in a minute from politics to economics and business and science, because I think this conception cannot be answered from one side only. So it's not only about defense, it's about an inclusive conception of resilience for the whole society, for institutions as well as for individuals. And yes, we must have a strong focus there on education, on enabling people to understand those conceptions, on integration, stability, supply chain security, infrastructure protection. And this is not, an objection to what we've just heard about open science, but it is important to have in mind technological autonomy as well. And I will talk about it when I come to my entrepreneurial way with Swiss Stablecoin, because in there you see that sovereignty as part of payment infrastructure, I regard as very crucial for the time coming. So all this shows that not only the terms changed quite a bit, but it is something else, that the narrow domination of security and sovereignty than we had it during Cold War, for instance. It's really a new phase and the new understanding and a need for broader conceptions. So I close this political part by repeating once again, it's only 6 years. I've left Parliament, but those kind of discussions, this is really a new world. This is really a new world, and yes, we have to understand that for the parliamentarians as well, this catching up is a real challenge for the political culture as well, and we have to speed up there in knowing that there is, it's not about left or right. I think it is about having a debate about this issue, and I believe that our political culture gives the right floor to do so. In the economy, resilience has become, of course, even more important. I would even say resilience has become as important as efficiency and sustainability. And maybe it's all, together the same. Well, for Switzerland, the economy is, as you know, strong, innovative. I will show you afterwards some slide out of the ETH domain. Yes, it's highly dependent on exports, imports, open markets. So we should never forget that, yes, we have this innovation out of our ecosystem, but we do have those dependencies as well. And we have to be aware of that. This creates vulnerability in times of conflict and trade disputes, of course. Free trade is increasingly limited by tariff sanctions and industrial policy. And, sometimes I think back to the political discussions from liberal side, and if we want to talk about left and right, I don't really like this conception, as all of you know, which have seen my path in politics. But if we talk about left and right, I'm wondering sometimes, now this attack on the liberal side, I mean, this must shock not only left, but right as well, right? So, I mean, sometimes I wonder where are the forces, the liberal forces, and we really have to be aware that this openness in the markets was always crucial for Switzerland. Well, free trade is essential, but it can no longer be taken for granted, unfortunately. Economic sovereignty now means protecting as well critical industries. It has always meant, but now it's obvious why. Securing supply of medicines, energy, key technologies, and even the intersection of economy, business, and politics. We should look through this lens, especially when infrastructure is affected. And this is probably one of the biggest changes if we look back historically, as I did at the beginning. The concept of security has become much broader, and this is true as well because of technological developments. Yesterday night, I want to share that with you. My daughter, she's 14 at the moment, and she had to study for a school exam. By the way, it should be right now. I think she's writing now her exam in the subject Raumzeit Gesellschaft, it's called. So we ended up at the end of the evening discussing technological developments since the Industrial Revolution and the changes they brought with them. By the way, Thomas mentioned it in the opening speeches. Where can you talk about this in a better way than here in Baden, right? It's really part of the history if we're talking about industrialization. I hope you understand. Historically and at present, of course, as well, you will have Nora Theussen this afternoon here from ABB. So the question we discussed yesterday was, when are changes so profound that we all of a sudden call them a technological revolution? And the answer of Juliana, my daughter, was when it changes every aspect of our daily life. And she was so right. And she is really right. And if I come back to my thought, why is dependencies and sovereignty so important? Because it's not only a fragment if we are dependent on certain technologies. It's like an everyday life dependency. And this is why with the technological development, or let's call it revolution, and I think we can, so it's even more important. And this is where innovation, this nice word, which says we are looking for something new, comes together with protecting something which is already here. And this is why the intersection between this economical innovation and as well science gets so close now to the political discussion. Now, I brought with me my own example with Swiss Stablecoin. Because here as well, we have a development which goes very fast. We see only the very beginning. But in a nutshell, what happens in the payment infrastructure right now? Well, digital forms of money are changing how payments work. And now, please listen to me. I'm not talking about crypto coins, unregulated and volatile. No, well, this exists as well. But what I'm talking about is something different. Not about new coins, but our legal currencies, our legal tender, our currencies which are developed and coupled with more functionalities through tokenization. And they are changing how payments work. They allow instant payment. They allow low-cost transfer between people, between businesses and governments. The payments become more efficient, more transparent as well, and secure. Fraud and money laundering can be reduced through traceable transactions. People can pay directly without unnecessary intermediaries. For small businesses, this is important because we think payment is for free. No, it's not. There is a fee with it. And for small businesses, it's a tough game. But such innovations, they are, coming right now. They are pushed as well by politics. I mean, I'm not sure for you who don't know the payment sector that well, but after this act called Genius Act of Trump, you have now really the financial industry who knows this development came to stay and we better adapt, and we establish infrastructures with these new functionalities. This already happens. And Switzerland has a very own interest to have a payment infrastructure which tries to be resilient and reduces dependencies. This is why all around the world, not only here in Switzerland, central banks as well push their own projects. Our central bank does this in the wholesale area only between financial industry enterprises, companies, so between banks. But we've, with Swiss Stablecoin, realized some years already ago that there must be a Swiss sovereign answer as well, because this is, well, not exactly maybe the way I discussed it yesterday with my daughter, but it's about the same, because payment is an everyday thing, and it is important for not only for businesses but individuals as well. And we should think about reducing dependencies and realizing that what is happening now is not only about innovation boosts and not only about strengthening our own value creation here in Switzerland, in, not giving the money to intermediaries, asking for fees. If those fees are reduced because of technology, it's good, but we have to look at it as well from our perspectives here in Switzerland. But it is as well, and this is the reason why I show you this slide, it is about monetary sovereignty and, of course, as well, the financial stability. And this is, I want to show you this to show innovation and infrastructure get so close in very often. We have this wholesale CBDC projects out of central banks. We have tokenized deposit projects within the financial industry out of banks, but to have broad, accessible digital francs, you need to have a stablecoin as well. And this is what we are working on right now. We don't do it in an isolated way, but in dialogue with the Swiss National Bank and together with the banks, because it is about infrastructure. And I want to show you this slide because it shows that innovation and infrastructure gets really close. And this is what we have to realize, especially when we are looking at the potential which is right in that. And yes, there is this international context. A lot of this potential is leveraged now in the international field, but we are part of that, and we really have to be aware that we have to have an own solution. It's a funny way for me as a former politician to get entrepreneurial with such a project. It was up and down, as you can imagine, kind of a roller coaster, because 3 years ago, nobody understood what I'm really talking about. They thought, like, how comes Social Democrat? Now she's crypto. I tried to explain it's not about crypto. It's about the functionalities within our currency. Now that the debate is here, I'm glad I had the courage to go for it some years ago, and I'm glad the debate is here now. And the Federal Council, Bundesrat, has even presented right now a new law for new licenses for regulated stablecoins. So you see, it takes time, but all of a sudden things get faster. And I think all of us, we should be helping industries, helping people to open the eyes for the importance of resilience within innovation as well. So it's not only about new things, enabling new things, but protecting old things and our values as well. I would like to have a glance as well on science and how important science is. We know that, we heard that, we have people here in the audience that know this even better than I do. But what I can bring in this debate is, let's look at the intersection between science, economy, business, and politics with the lenses of a whole conception. No, we are not talking about science which is led by politics. This doesn't work, and the autonomy of science is really important. But to have a dialogue, to have a common understanding, and to know what happens within the academic ecosystem is so crucial for exactly the issues we've been talking about. Well, I don't go into the details of the spin-off. I think you know, and you have been to the ETH yesterday, so you know about this strong ecosystem out of the ETH domain, the innovation which is created out of the domain. I would like to have a glance at the question of what is the contribution of this whole domain regarding sovereignty, regarding security, regarding resilience. And I started in the ETH board 2 years ago. One of my first speeches in there was because I was listening to Parliament, and the paradigm shift I've been talking about in the first part of my speech, I brought into the ETH board, and I said, we have to explain that what we do, and a lot of what we do, is part of the answers that they are looking for. So I look at the contribution out of the ETH domain as a real important part of the whole discussion for an inclusive concept on resilience and sovereignty. It is about the critical infrastructure, and what I'm talking about is not new. These efforts are taken already since a long time, but we should give it the name as well that is understood out of this political debate we are right now in. And we are having the strategic areas, and you see when you look at them how close they come to the resilience issues we're talking about. And I'm glad to tell you that as well the Federal Council asks now exactly for this stronger dialogue and about this help and contribution for the whole conception. So you see here some examples on how this all comes together and on the strong contribution that science can make, that research can make. And when you listen in the last years, when you listened about the intersection of the ETH domain and all the other universities as well, and politics, you often read about the financials and the cuts. I mean, if we're talking about security, then you really see that that's where the debate should be on the substances, on the substantial contribution which can be brought. But this is as well our part out of the ETH board to make understandable, visible, that this work is exactly part of the answers for a big conception. And yeah, here an example. Now, more on the energy side and the infrastructure part. Just one example to see how the expertise here at EPFL, ETH, Zurich, PSI, and EMPA comes together and makes a huge difference is one of the strengths out of our countries. But this is just one example of collaborations. And AI, of course, I don't have to go into that, really changed as well once again, and we are there at the forefront and trying to make the difference and bring the contribution which is needed. So I want to conclude in the end and maybe come back to this question. Is it as important as never before, sovereignty and the resilience? You might have your own answer. Or is it just as important as it ever has been? But we see it now more clearly. Maybe we wake up a little bit and we try to catch up as well. What I think is important that we have this debate and that we don't have it within, certain rooms. But let's leave this room. Let's share the reflections. Let's share the contributions. And let's realize that what comes together in this sovereignty and resilience debate needs answers from the political side, from the business part, and understanding from the business part, and of course as well the contribution of all the expertise out of research area. Well, sovereignty and resilience are not new ideas, probably not more important than before. This is my answer, but as important as ever. And especially, and we have to be aware of that, much, much more complex. And this is why forums like here are really needed. I thank you. I'm honored to be here. Have a good forum and a good day. Thank you so much.
Many thanks. Just one brief follow-up question. Yesterday there was a question, someone asked, we live in the age of imperialism, and how should a small country like Switzerland defend its sovereignty in the face of all this unilateralism? Fortunately, we're not Denmark with a former colony. But what is your response? How does Switzerland deal with these challenges? Was it, let's say, how they negotiated the tariff reductions? It's a sort of a hybrid approach. Do you think that's the future of sending a business embassy and then a political embassy?
Yeah, I have a clear answer to that, but it's a very personal one. And whether it's right, well, the future will tell. We should stick to our values. And our values are legal security, Verlässlichkeit.
Reliability.
Yeah, reliability. And this is what will be remembered. And what does not mean that a pragmatic way, I'm not the one who thinks now, come on, they are not allowed to go to this Oval Office. There I'm really pragmatic. But in the core, that our values should be protected. For this I stand, and I really hope that this will, this will pay off as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice concluding remarks. So we have further opportunity to discuss with Pascale before she leaves. I mean, she will have to leave soon. But let's try to be back around 5:05, so we don't lose much time. And then we continue with the panel. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.